So, Seth, can you tell me what happened on Amazon with your book?
As soon as it was published, it was swarmed by these crappy AI knockoffs that appear to have been generated algorithmically.
How many do you think were actually listed on Amazon?
There's more every day, it seems. They're sucking up a bunch of the content that's around the book or that's been published around the book, and then selling for $15 or $20 books that will confuse people. So where they think they're buying my book, but they're actually buying this AI slop.
So, take a look at these two books. One of them is The Fort Bragg Cartel, exposing drug trafficking and murder in the special forces. That was written by Seth Harp. That was the guy that you saw at the beginning of this video. Seth's a journalist, but he's also a veteran. He's a lawyer. He might be the calmest guy I know. This second book, though, looks a lot like Seth's book, but it isn't. It's almost certainly an AI-generated book that was made to look as similar as possible to Seth's book in order to confuse customers. Around the time that Seth's book was coming out, he started keeping an eye on his Amazon listings. This is a really normal thing for writers to do, just to make sure, that they're near the top of their search results. And, you're just excited and you're nervous because your book is going to finally come out. People are going to get to read it and you want to see how it's going to do. Seth noticed that there were a lot of books that were a lot like the Fort Bragg Cartel, and they were all published in late July or early August. Really, they were all published around the time that the Fort Bragg Cartel started being noticed by critics and reviewers, and people might be searching for it on Amazon. Many of them have similar titles to Seth's book. Some of them even put Seth's name in the title, saying that it was inspired by Seth Harp or it was written with context from Seth Harp. Whatever the hell that is supposed to mean. And almost all of them had covers that looked quite a bit like Seth's cover. Seth's book has this really dark cover with a little bit of light in the corner and these big bold letters. I mean, it's not the most original cover, but you can tell when another book is trying to rip it off. And most of these books, frankly, looked like they were trying to rip Seth off. There were even a couple of books that purported to be biographies of Seth. So they were saying that they were going to tell the real story of the author behind the Fort Bragg Cartel. Now, when I sat down and had a call with Seth to talk about this, I asked just to verify if he had ever been contacted by anyone who said that they wanted to write a biography of him. And of course, he said no, there is no real biography of Seth Harp. These are all fake, and they often feature AI images, which, by the way, don't even look like Seth. This is not a video about how Amazon is particularly evil. It's not really a story about Amazon at all. We'll talk about Amazon a little bit, but it's bigger than that. It's also not really a story about how AI is proving to be pretty bad for writers, people who are trying to make a living doing real journalism. Seth did everything you want a journalist to do. He spent 2 years writing this book. He was flying back and forth between Texas and North Carolina. I think he went a few other places to meet with sources. He was going through government documents. He was just trying to get any interview he could with anyone in the special forces or anyone who knew people in the special forces to try to piece together this story. The point is, this was a lot of work. But the video is not about how Seth in particular is getting screwed. It's about how you, as a customer or just as a citizen, that'll make sense in a minute, I promise, are also getting screwed by AI writing. We are currently getting flooded with AI writing, and I want to talk about that. There have been fake books for nearly as long as there have been books. As soon as people started taking the time to write books, people started counterfeiting them or producing illicit copies or selling them. As soon as we started protecting things with things like IP law or copyright, people started violating that because people will do things that are illegal or immoral in order to make a quick buck. And Amazon has had fake books for a long time too. I mean, Amazon has a general problem with fake products on their platform. What we see now, though, is a dramatic increase in scale. Using AI tools, whether that's ChatGPT or Claude or any other sort of open access generative AI system, using any of these systems, one person could produce massive numbers of fake books based on any title that they think is going to do well, and they could start listing them on Amazon. And I think I understand what the business model is here. This is speculation, but I think it makes sense. One person can use AI to generate, let's say, 10 fake books that are based on what they think is going to be a bestseller. They then give it a similar title and a similar cover. They throw it up on Amazon using Kindle or print-on-demand services, so they don't actually have to manufacture the book. And for maybe an hour's work, they can start making a little bit of money. And what you're really trying to do is trick people, or I actually think the better word here would be you're trying to defraud them They think that they're buying that book that they heard about on that podcast or in the newspaper, but they're actually buying your fake AI copy. And while some of the people who buy fake books are going to get angry and return them, not everybody will. And so for very little work, these fraudsters are going to make some money. The listings often get removed, but other books will replace them. So these numbers are going to vary depending on when you check. But right before recording this video, I checked again to see how many fake books associated with the Fort Bragg cartel I could find on Amazon. And I found 47 fake books. Right now, Seth's book is a New York Times bestseller. It's been a bestseller for 2 weeks as of this recording, and it's doing very well, and that attracts a lot of attention. And so I don't think it's unreasonable to think that these fake books, some of them really are selling and making people real money. Any book that these fraudsters think might be successful, they can create fake copies of it and then put it on Amazon and try to make some money. Here's an example that I found earlier this year. So Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson wrote a book called Abundance, and it has been a bestseller all summer. About 2 weeks after that book was published, I found another book that was being listed on Amazon, and it was called The Politics of Abundance, Building a Future of Prosperity and Progress, something like that, with inspiration from Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson. So they even put Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson in the title. They also had a really similar cover. It had this kind of half globe thing that was meant to be like the earth is thriving and abundant and beautiful and progressive or something. It had the same vibe, and if you didn't look too closely, you might even think they're the same book. And that book was listed under a fake author's name, Ezekiel Thompson. And Ezekiel Thompson, I think, looks a lot like Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson mashed together if you weren't paying that much attention. And that's what these fraudsters are targeting. They're targeting people who aren't paying close attention. It's no secret that AI slop is filling up the internet right now. You're most likely watching this video on YouTube, and it is very easy to find tons and tons of AI generated content that is low quality, that is not particularly entertaining, but is cheap to produce and fairly easy to monetize, meaning that some people are actually going to make some real money off of this. I didn't expect it to come for the book world. For some reason, I thought that the books were too difficult to knock off, but the people behind the fake Fort Bragg cartel or the person behind Ezekiel Thompson are really proving that any form of media you can imagine is going to be faked and is going to quickly be overrun with AI slop. And at the root of this, what I think is happening is that people want to find a way to make quick and easy money. We have this human urge or desire to find shortcuts and basically to cut corners. And those urges to find shortcuts and to cut corners will make us do things that we know are unethical, or simply, in those cases, those people just don't care. Like, they don't care if they're scamming you because they just want to make some money. So it could be laziness, but we can't really underestimate the effects of greed here also. I understand that most people don't really care about the publishing industry. And if you're watching some of my videos, maybe you consider yourself book savvy or internet savvy enough that you wouldn't fall victim to a scam like this. And I say good for you. It sucks that it's going to happen to other people, but I'm glad that you have your guard up. But let's talk about two other examples that go out of the book world and prove that this flood of AI writing has the potential to harm you, or at least to seriously impact your life, whether you consider yourself particularly internet savvy or not. And that's because AI writing is starting to affect the police and the legal system. So back in January of this year, so January 2025, there was an article that was published on a Department of Justice website that was all about AI generated police reports. And apparently police reports take up an awful lot of cops' time. Whatever the number is, I'm sure that many cops think to themselves, man, I wish I didn't have to spend so much time doing paperwork. In fact, one police chief in Boulder, Colorado, called AI-generated police reports one of the most exciting innovations that they had ever seen in policing because it would free up officers' time to go and do things that they thought were more important. They called it proactive policing. There are a few different products that are being marketed to police officers and police departments to help them write their police reports. Some officers might just be using Claude or ChatGPT or something, but in addition to that, there are specific pieces of software that are being sold to police departments saying, hey, this will safely and reliably generate your police reports. Most of the articles that I read about this focused on something called Draft One. On Draft One's website, they say that they can generate a high quality police report in seconds. And they'll do this by analyzing body cam footage and also the audio from that. It was a little vague on whether or not it actually does some kind of like machine vision or if it's just based on the audio, but it takes those files and then it will generate what it says is a high quality report. But there is one major problem with a piece of software like Draft One. Everybody at this point knows that AIs hallucinate, that simply put, they make stuff up. The Electronic Frontier Foundation is a civil liberties organization that is dedicated to protecting our rights online. They investigated Draft One, and they found that there were some serious problems with the safety features that are included with that software. Namely, there's no way to tell in the final report what was written by an AI and what was written by a police officer. The fear is that this could actually lead officers to perjure themselves in legal proceedings. It means that falsehoods and misleading statements about some, criminal proceeding or about some event could be entered into the record. This could be a problem because you might get a mistrial or something like that, or it could mean in the worst case that someone is wrongfully convicted because of a false police report. That's an extreme case, but it's a possibility that I think we have to keep in mind. The EFF says that Draft One does not save any of the drafts that it generates. It doesn't have something like edit history. And if a police officer were to just copy the text out of the window and paste it somewhere else, it just disappears from Draft One. So we have no way of tracking the origin or the provenance of any of these police reports. So previously we could assume that it was just the officer doing their best, we hope, right, to make sure they're not lying, but we would assume that it was the officer doing their best to describe the situation. But if we're using AI for that, we actually lose that assumption. That assumption no longer holds. And if there are falsehoods in a police report now, we have to ask, is it because the officer was lying? Or is it because an AI hallucinated? Or is it because the officer was negligent and didn't check and catch those mistakes? I'm sure that we will see headlines about this issue very soon. Now, the company behind Draft One is called Axon. They are most famous for inventing the taser. Actually, the taser has a troubled history that you could look up if you really wanted to. Axon says that there are safety features included with their software, which are intended to prevent or at least mitigate these sorts of mistakes. One of those features would insert deliberate errors into the police report, which would mean that a police officer, in order to be responsible, would have to go and catch them and fix them. There is also a feature which is supposed to ensure that there's a human in the loop and require a certain amount of editing in the final report. But a Mother Jones investigation found that most police departments that are using Draft One turn those features off. They don't want the safety features. They want the quick, easy, AI-generated police reports. And it might seem like this video is really about two different things, but here's what I think is connecting them so far. People make fake AI books because they want to make money from writing books, but they don't want to actually, go and write a book. That human drive to cut corners and to be lazy leads them to just use AI to write fake books. Police officers probably do not enjoy writing police reports, so they use AI to generate the reports for them. They cut corners because human beings have this tendency to be lazy. By the way, Axon also has a feature which would add a header to a document just saying that AI had been used in the process of generating the report. That's another feature, though, that can be turned off. And again, most departments that are using this software, they turn that off. It's actually very difficult to know how many police reports are being written with AI now because we don't have good data and we don't have any kind of mandated transparency, except in Utah. Utah has passed a law saying that police departments actually have to be transparent about their use of AI in police reports. Other states like California are considering that kind of legislation, but right now, the national leader in AI transparency for police reports is Utah. So I say good job to the Utahns, I think is what they call themselves. Good job to the Utahns. There's a chance that anyone who is watching this video has either already had encounters with the police or will at least one time in their life have some kind of encounter with the police, that they get pulled over for a speeding ticket or they get arrested for disorderly conduct or, something much worse. And so I think there's a reason for absolutely everybody to care about this flood of AI writing that is being used to generate these police reports. We should demand actually that human beings write those reports so that we can properly hold people accountable if there are mistakes in them. We also should demand, I think, that lawyers who are handling these legal cases also write their legal briefs themselves. But there have been numerous stories. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them in the newspaper. I'll include a few links here in case you're interested, of lawyers using AI to write their legal briefs. And as a result, they have submitted arguments to judges. So they have gone to court and submitted arguments that relied on fake cases that were really just AI hallucinations. What happens if you build precedent? What happens if those aren't caught and you build precedent based on an AI hallucination? I have no idea what that means. And that's a much more serious problem than a couple of fake books being sold on Amazon. But again, I think it's all deep down related. This is not a complete anti-AI video. This is not about whether or not AI can be creative or ever be conscious, or whether or not even these systems really are AI. I kind of don't care about that right now. What I'm saying is that people are already using AI in irresponsible ways, in ways that could actually hurt you or people you know. They can hurt you because they defraud you out of some money, and so you lose $15, or because some huge part of your life now gets taken up dealing with AI generated problems in the legal system. I always like to end my videos by talking about something positive. Here's what we can do about it. Here is the upside. Here is the chance for opportunity and reflection or something. But really in this video, I'd say I don't know what we would possibly do. If we could come up with some general solution for laziness, basically make it so that people don't want to be lazy about things that matter, maybe that would work, but good luck. And so for now, all I can really say is that we are being flooded with AI writing, and I think it's going to get worse. And I think we're going to start seeing real negative consequences, out in the world, not just people complaining about it on YouTube videos. It's going to happen. It's already happening. And I really hope we figure out some way to do something about it. It's easy for me to get depressed talking about all this stuff because it seems like there's very little we can do to fight against the AI flood on the internet. I don't have a big systematic answer, at least not yet. One thing that we can do though, and I think this is important, is to focus on creating things that actually matter. We want to create things that we're proud of. One series that I recently watched was Amy's Dead End Dreamhouse. It's basically like a kids show, but made for adults. It reminds me of like watching Nickelodeon as a kid, but it's tackling real adult problems, the sort of problems that you and I are going to face in our everyday lives. It's weird and it's funny, but most importantly, it's made by real humans for real humans. The very first episode involves Amy looking for a new job. At one point, she literally goes on a job hunt and has to dodge job scams, the kind of thing that you find on all of those job search websites. If you've looked for a job recently, I think you'll relate to a lot of what's in that episode. You can watch that episode for free on YouTube, but if you want to watch the rest of the series, it's available exclusively on Nebula. Nebula is a creator-owned streaming platform that has some of my favorite creators, and I joined Nebula about a year ago. It's something I'm really proud of. It has an ad-free viewing experience, it has a really smooth UI, but I think the most important fact is that it's full of content that creators made that they actually feel good about, that they feel proud of. It's something that took heart to make. And more that includes original TV series like Amy's Dead End Dreamhouse. I also put up all my videos early on Nebula. I'm always a video ahead. In fact, if you go to Nebula right now, you'll be able to watch my next video before it comes out on YouTube. If you use my code, you can save 40% on an annual subscription. That brings the price down to just $36. You can also buy a lifetime membership. Usually those are $500, but right now if you use my code, you can get one for $300. This is a way to support some of your favorite thoughtful creators, and at the same time, you'll be supporting me too. So go check out Nebula. You can use the QR code that's on the screen right now, or you can find a link down below in the video description.